So there's one thing that I don't like to do. I don't like to talk. Now, it's kind of weird because I'm a speech communication major, but I'll tell you, I don't like to talk. But I do love to speak. There's a fundamental difference between talking and speaking. Speech is when you actually talk to someone and you create that connection so that they remember you and you remember them. So my question to you today is, what is the difference between speaking and talking? I'll let you think about that question while I tell you my story. I am from Mumbai, India. Mumbai is 8,000 miles away. It's a small city of about 12 million people. Mumbai is hot, humid, and spicy. And right now, we're in Brookings, South Dakota. Brookings is cold, it's calm, and it's sugary. But I found my origins in Brookings, South Dakota. I'm not talking about my physical origins. I'm not talking about my mental origins. I'm talking about my existential origins. What wakes me up at 5 a.m. every day? What puts fire into my soul? And I found my existential origins in speaking. But I wasn't always like this. A year ago, I would not be able to stand on this red dot and speak to you. One, because I did not have the opportunities, and second, I didn't like to talk. But the way that I changed was in 3 steps. And these 3 steps are very important whenever you meet someone new and you talk to them. So every time you meet someone new, there are 3 things that you need to do in order for them to remember you and for you to remember them. The first one is introduce yourself. Well, if you don't know the person's names, it's a good idea to introduce yourself. Otherwise, what are you going to call me? Like, hey, the guy with the black shirt? Like, that's not the right thing, okay? So the first thing that you need to do is introduce yourself. So every time I meet someone new, I introduce myself by saying, hello, my name is Raj. Like from the Big Bang Theory, except I can talk to girls when I'm not drunk. That's true. So the way you introduce someone is as important as the way you say your name. Because if you include a story in your name, that's the way the person will remember you. There are like 1,000 of Ben that I know on South Dakota State University, but I remember 5 of them because I know their stories. So tell a story while you introduce your name. The second thing you need to do is find a common ground. And this is where you guys have already, there's a check mark right now. You guys have a common ground. It's TEDxBrookings. So you introduce someone and you tell them, I'm here at TEDxBrookings, and tell them why you are here. And that's how you find a common ground. That's how you proceed in your conversation. Hold that conversation. So you introduce yourself and you find a common ground. The next thing I would like you to do is ask questions, because that is more important to keep the conversation going. So the first question I get whenever I meet someone new after I've introduced my name, the first thing they do is they think I'm crazy, but the second thing they ask me is, what brings me to these lonesome Dakotas? And I'm like, well, I always wanted to become a filmmaker, and filmmaking schools are expensive. I don't have that kind of money. And when I wanted to come down to SDSU just announced a minor in film studies. So I'm like, well, might as well just come to South Dakota State. Well, because it's cheap, and I get to do what I want to do. So it's kind of cool. So that's what I tell them. Ask them questions. What brings them here? Why are they here? What do they do? How do they do it? Just ask them questions, because the more questions you ask, you give them more information, and you get more information about themselves, and so you can communicate better. So whenever you meet someone new, do these 3 things. First, introduce yourself. Second, find a common ground. And third, ask questions. Now, a year ago, I would not be able to talk to you if I would not apply these 3 strategies. I would literally sit in a chair and stare at you till you were so uncomfortable that either you wanted to leave or either you wanted me to leave. So do these 3 things, always do these 3 things. And that is the fundamental difference between speaking and talking. When you talk, you just talk. You're like, hey, my name is Raj, I do this, I do that. But when you speak, you say, my name is Raj. This is my story. This is what I do, and this is why I do it, and this is how I do it. And that's how you remember each other. So my challenge to you today is we're going to have a lot of community breakout sessions. Go ahead and meet someone you haven't met before and introduce yourself in this fashion. And then find me later on and tell me whether it worked or not, because if it did not, then I might have to change my next TED Talk. But yeah, thank you very much.